Don't rent from the big companies. Yes, if you absolutely must, we're not saying anything bad about them. It's a hassle, it's complicated. Rent from private owners. Welcome to another episode of Living the Dream podcast, where we talk about everything Mexico lifestyle and real estate. Episode number 7.
Number 7.
Let's do it.
Okay, today's gonna be a casual episode. I got my feet up, I'm relaxing, and we're not gonna really talk about real estate on this one. We're gonna talk about transportation throughout the Riviera Maya. Different options if you're here as a tourist, if you're here for a few months, if you own real estate, if you're relocating, and what your options are here in Mexico. So
I'm Lev, I'm the co-founder of the Elements Real Estate Group.
my name is Matt. I'm the other co-founder of the Elements Real Estate Group.
And if you're in the market, or if you have any other questions regarding Mexico in general, or moving down here and purchasing real estate, make sure you click on the buyer's guide. It's in the description, and we'll send it out to you and get the process started. So somebody wants to come down here and they want to take a taxi. So let's talk about taxis from the Cancun airport, and taxis from the Tulum airport, and also taxis in Playa del Carmen and in Tulum.
Okay, so if you're gonna get a taxi from like flying in and you haven't pre-arranged any transportation, you want to get a taxi. I've done this before. So Cancun to Playa was around 1,500 pesos, which is about $100 and so. Okay, so that was it. Now we also did pre-arranged transportation. We'll get into that a little bit later. It's cheaper. Highly recommend it. We also got a contact for that if you want it. And in and around Playa del Carmen, it's kind of nice, right? Because it used to be, it would just give you a random number, like as a taxi driver, and a random price, and then you would just maybe hassle or try and work a deal a little bit. Now they actually have like laminated pieces of paper, so from that taxi stand to Playa Car to here to there, they actually have a set amount, which is really, really nice.
It's like an old school meter almost.
yeah, exactly. Okay, you want us to drive from here to there, this is the price. So it's kind of a nice, some people don't like to haggle or negotiate, especially with taxis when they're standing right there. There's a bit of pressure, they're opening up the doors. So it's nice to know that there's kind of a set amount for most majority of places and destinations within Playa. And so, highly recommend it. It's safe, they're really great, and they're clean taxis.
And Playa is also it's a different syndicate than the Tulum syndicate. So here in Playa, if you take a taxi anywhere around the downtown core, you're looking at maximum 100 pesos, like
$7.
Yeah, Canadian, right? So in US, you're looking at about $5.50, $6. So it's very affordable. It's great to get around if you need to go to the grocery store and then cab back with all your groceries. So highly recommend it. Now Tulum, however, it's a
work in progress.
Holy moly, man. Tulum is a completely different syndicate, and they are owned by somebody else, by another corporation or entity or whatever, and they charge a lot to taxi drivers. So I spoke to some of these taxi drivers in their cabs, and I said to them, why is it so expensive here for the exact same distance? I mean, if you're traveling from, let's say, an Airbnb to the beach, sometimes it's like $40, $50 for a 5-minute cab ride.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And the reason he explained to me is because they are charged more, so they have to charge more, right? But always there's light at the end. I've had a lot of backlash from, people that live there, people that visit, about how expensive they are. So Uber is actually making its way to the Riviera Maya.
Yes.
It's already in Cancun. There's a lot of conflict when it first launched, and now it's officially operating. A lot of the taxi drivers are also Uber drivers now.
Going back and forth between the platforms,
So it's starting to be much more easier to get around in Cancun. Playa's next on the agenda, and then there's going to be Tulum. So hopefully, sooner rather than later, we'll have Uber all over the Riviera Maya, because it'll make things a lot better.
Yeah, and like I was in Cabos a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and Uber was very well known as, that's what you did. It was an Uber, super simple, easygoing, and you know exactly where you're going to be charged. And when you also say syndicates with taxis, right? There's basically the Tulum, all the taxi drivers in Tulum, all the taxi drivers in Playa, all the taxi drivers in Cancun.
Puerto Morelos,
Yeah, and if you drive, say you take a taxi from Playa del Carmen to Cancun, they can't actually operate within Cancun. They can drop you off and go back to Playa del Carmen. That's what we kind of mean by they look after their own territories, which is cool. So one of the cheapest modes of transportation is, especially in Tulum, and it's very, very popular. If you've been down this way, you'll notice a lot of ATVs and mopeds. I can talk to this from a personal experience because I was just in Tulum for the weekend, did a little staycation there with my wife and daughter, and we rented a moped. And I'll show a picture up here because it's pretty funny. Now, this wasn't just a simple moped, it was a moped with a sidecar. So we had so much fun.
What color was it?
Baby blue.
Teal.
Teal. Baby, yeah, okay, whatever. It is what it is. They only had that color. Shout out to the rental company as well, Patricio in Tulum and Aldea Zama. He was fantastic. So a single moped, 500 pesos for the day. The sidecar was about 800, and it was really fun. We literally had a blast. I had my Nova on the side. I had Zuri on our lap. All had our helmets, and we went down into the beach. We went all around Tulum. And here's the cool thing: we had it for 24 hours. We were on it quite a bit. We went to go get gas because you fill it up before you return it. And it was 62 pesos of gas. And I mean, we were hammering on the throttle. We were on the main roads. We went to a cenote down Tulum. It's a lot of fun. So main thing about the transportation, if you're in Tulum or in Playa and you are going to be zipping around and you're comfortable with it, moped and ATVs are very cost effective. And if you get them for longer, if you get them for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, you get a much better price as well. And all the insurance is included. Like the price they give you is the actual price.
You should be a sales rep for a moped company.
I was just really, really impressed with it. And we had a blast because we could zip around and the car is fine, but you have to find parking, this and that. And mopeds, you just, kind of sneak in in front of whatever restaurant.
Tulum's got a lot of that like Bali vibe. And I've been to Bali where you just rent a scooter and you go everywhere in the scooter. Yeah, easy, it's fast, it's super.
Yeah, eventually I think they're gonna have some tuk-tuks as well for transportation, but not in Tulum. It is actually in Tulum, kind of further out, but eventually maybe they'll have tuk-tuks in the hotel zone and in around. So the other obviously way of getting around is private transportation. There's lots of companies that do private transportation from kind of A to B, pick up B to A. Those prices vary. They are cheaper than taxis, more expensive than mopeds. Yeah. So we'll put a few different
find them a lot online, obviously, but also just on Facebook. There's a lot of people offering, in the Tulum groups and like the Playa groups, just private transportation. Reach out to them, and they'll do everything. Yeah. It's been great experience for a lot of our clients and guests. We also have a concierge that could get you private transport set up. So if they're ever coming down, let us know, and our concierge Brittany will take care of the transport. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Actually, we have a concierge with our real estate team for not just even clients coming down to shop around for real estate, but just even vacations, or they bought something and then their friends coming down. We kind of extend this concierge service to them. And if you buy something and you are renting on Airbnb, they can also use our concierge system, and it's free. It's free of charge. So they can plan dinners and cenotes and beach clubs and all that good stuff. Don't hear the word free a lot in Mexico.
No doubt.
That's good.
No doubt. Okay, so moving on.
You know what's not free in Mexico?
What's that?
Renting cars.
Yes, renting cars. Especially if you go with kind of some of the bigger names, the more, the Hertz, the Avises, the things you get at the airport. You're looking at $1,500 or so a day that you'll find online, really cheap prices.
Yeah, they'll be like, it's $8 a day. And you're like, sweet, I'll book this. And then you get there, especially in Cancun airport, it's a disaster. Like, I've had so many clients be pissed off, the Avis or to the Hertz or whatever. And you're like, here's my reso. And I'm like, great. But there's also insurance.
The big but.
Yeah, but there's also insurance. You're like, what's that? And you're like, I have insurance on my credit card. And they're like, that doesn't matter. You have to get insurance from us. And they're like, end up paying like 10 times the price for like $120 to $150 a day instead of paying the 8 or 10 that was advertised.
Yes.
So recommendation, number one, obviously reach out to us. We'll get you transport, of course. But number two, don't rent from the big companies. Like, yes, if you absolutely must, we're not saying anything bad about them. It's a hassle. It's complicated. Rent from private owners, right? You could rent car. We have 2 agents on our team. They have car rentals. I think she said it was $50 a day, insurance included. Little Volkswagen or Chevy Aveo.
Something just to get around. If you want to go to Cenote or go do, like if you're doing an excursion, most of the times they have transportation. But if you want to do something on your own, and even those companies aren't too bad. They're complicated, they're confusing. And a side note on the credit cards, if you look in the fine print, a lot of them do not include outside of the US and Canada. A lot of people go, oh, it's covered. I saw it in one of the big bullet points when I signed up for my card. But if you look in the fine print, it may or may not include Mexico.
That's why it's not a bad option. We just recommend not doing it because it's a headache, to be honest. So like I've owned cars here for a while, so we'll get into that in a minute. But you recently moved here, so you have been renting cars, but long term.
Yes.
So why don't you give a quick example about how much that is, how the process was, and how you found it?
Sure. Yeah. So it was actually through expat groups. There's tons of expat communities down here that you can ask to join. Most of them are very, very helpful, and also lots of keyboard warriors, as we talked about on another episode. But for the most part, they are there to help and share their experiences, just like we are on this podcast. So, because the first time we were here for, I think, 3 or 4 months, and I actually did do one of the main car rentals the first year I was here, and it cost me
You didn't know,
a
right?
bloody fortune.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not realistic. And so then got into these groups, started to learn more. So the first one was a Toyota RAV4, perfect for, we had a car seat as well for Nova and Zuri and I, if we wanted to load up the truck or friends and family coming down. We could head out. It was around 16,000 pesos a month, so about $800, $900 a month. But you have to remember, it's still, even though that was a short term, 3 months, right? You can do it for a month or 2 weeks or a day. And then this year we got another SUV and got it for 12,000 pesos a month. So about $600, $500. So you're learning, it's a learning progress.
Well, it's not that bad. I mean, if you count it, right? Like what did you say? 12,000 pesos, call it $600 a month. Divide that by 30 days. You're looking at $20 a day.
Yeah. And full insurance. And they were super helpful too. Like the guy had a few cars and came in, he took pictures and videos, gave me pictures of all the insurance, all that good stuff. So that's what I'd highly recommend if you're going to be here for a good amount of time. And the reason we are renting is because we're currently importing our one of our vehicles from Canada down here, which we'll do a whole other episode on
Once you actually do it.
once it's actually here and legalized in Mexico. But that is why we're renting in the short term. And then of course the next step, if somebody is kind of relocating here, they want to not rent. You've owned multiple cars here and bought and sold cars here, so why don't you share a bit about the process on that?
Yeah, so cars are expensive here. If you're buying a brand new car at a dealership, like I was just looking at a Silverado, and it's like 1.3 million pesos, which is about, a 2022, not even 24, a 2022, which is about
70,000
US, right?
Yeah,
so about 100 grand Canadian. You're like, no. So I asked her, what's the payment plan look? And I'm like, what if I put half down? So about, 50%. And then how much would my monthly payments be? She's like, oh yeah, your monthly payments are 30,000 pesos a month, which is like 2,500 Canadian and about 1,700 US. I'm like, not happening.
Yeah.
So the best way to buy a car here, well, what's worked for me, I don't want to say the best, but what's worked for me was you find them on Facebook Marketplace, just like in Canada and the US. I have a mechanic. We find a car we like, call the seller, meet up in the parking lot, do a test drive, and then it's just a cash purchase. So it's kind of nice, like, yes, if you have the means to do it, to not have those monthly payments. And then you and the mechanic, we verify the paperwork that there's the original factura, which means the original purchase and sale,
the receipt,
yeah. And then just a few other documents. Usually what you would need is ID of the seller, the original factura as they call it, and with those two and maybe one more document, you can actually transfer it into your name at the DMV here.
So for something like that, you are obviously going to be here for most of the time or whatever it is, and we recommend that you do it with somebody who's done that process before. Of course, don't go do it on yourself because you want to make sure that everything is done properly,
especially if you don't speak Spanish. Like you're looking at a folder of papers, it's like, what's the factura?
Just give me the money, it's fine, right? No, you don't do that. So that is, those are pretty much the ways of transportation. Now, the one thing we didn't talk about is also the ADO bus. That is another great option. They're clean. They have Wi-Fi. They're the big buses. You get them from the Cancun airport. You get them in Tulum. You get them in Playa, a couple stops. So that's another great alternative and relatively cheap as well.
Yeah, like, you could get one, you land in the airport in Cancun, and the bus is like 160 pesos. So you're looking at like $10,
Yeah.
40-minute air-conditioned ride with Wi-Fi. And it takes you right in the middle of Playa. Same thing with Tulum. You land in the Tulum airport, a taxi is like $80.
Yeah.
Or the ADO that takes you right downtown Tulum is like 150 pesos or whatever it is. I'm not sure, but great option. Again, and if you're, you don't want to take those big Greyhound buses, you're like, I'm not a Greyhound person, private transport. It's the best way to do it.
And the last thing for mode of transportation that we'll talk about on this episode is the colectivo, which is if you're feeling extremely adventurous
And Mexican.
Playa to Cancun is about 50 pesos. So it's very cheap, so $3. But if you've ever been in the Playa area and you see vans kind of going really fast and doors opening and some honking and people are in and people are out, that's a colectivo. It's an experience in itself.
Yeah.
And maybe be here for a little bit before you try that.
Yeah. You forgot to mention, or we forgot to mention, the train, right? So the train is almost done. Like, it's done in other parts of the southeast here. So you can go from Cancun to Chichen Itza, you can go to Campeche, all these places. But the last phase, basically from Cancun, from Playa to Tulum, is ready in August, so in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Right? This is super exciting. It's great for the economy. Yes, there's environmental backlash, which we'll get into another time. But at the end of the day, what it does is it connects
Everything together.
the entire peninsula, right?
Yeah.
You can go to Merida, you can go to all these wonderful places now because of the train, and it's affordable, and half the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever been on a train in Europe. The same thing.
I've been on trains in Southeast Asia as well, like in China, the bullet train. I've been trains, the Via Rail throughout Canada. You get some work done. They're clean. They're nice. A lot of them have obviously Wi-Fi and beverages services.
Previous president, AMLO, thank you very much for spending all this money on all these infrastructure projects.
Of course.
We appreciate it. I know a lot of other people do too. Obviously, there's some backlash, but thank you for, muchas gracias, as they say, for building all of that. So that's transportation in a nutshell. Obviously, if you have more questions, reach out to us. Click on the buyer's guide below. It'll show you how to buy real estate, but also get you in touch with us if you want more information about anything down here. Robert De Niro, if you're watching, we'd love to have you on the podcast.
Please.
As usual, your people call our people, and we'll get that sorted. I think that's it for this episode of Transportation in the Riviera Maya.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.